Hello ladies and gentlemen, Stephen here from the channel Redolescence, and thank you so much for tuning in. And today we're going to be taking a closer look at a fragrance by the company Fort and Manle, and this one is called Maduro, so stay tuned. So this fragrance was released in 2016, and the perfumer behind this fragrance is Fort of the brand Fort and Manle. Now, I do want to disclose that this bottle was sent to me for review, but that has no influence or bearing on my personal opinion, so please keep that in mind. Now, this fragrance was influenced by Havana, Cuba, circa 1961, and that is when they experienced their worst drought in Cuban history. So they were harvesting what were their famous Maduro cigars, but they were very limited because of the drought. So there was a cargo ship by the name of Reina del Mar that was heading towards the continental US on its maiden voyage, and it contained a single crate of these famous Maduro cigars, but only 2 hours after it had set sail, it was invaded by Barbadian pirates, and then they lost the box containing not only the Maduro cigars, but whatever space remained in the box was also holding tropical fruits. Now, legend has it that the box containing the cigars and the fruit is now resting comfortably on the shores of Mexico, on the Gulf of Mexico, and I think it's a pretty cool story, and I think it's a great brand. I had a chance to try all of their fragrances in their sample pack, which I had the chance of giving away in a giveaway video, and I'm excited to tell you what I think of this scent. But let's go ahead and start off the review by taking a closer look at the presentation. So the presentation for this one is gorgeous. You have the box here with a little platform at the bottom in which the bottle rests, and the bottle is all black. It has a crown here up on the top. It definitely conveys regality. A plaque on the front here. It says Maduro on the front. Very intricate design going on here. The cap does not click into place, but it is a snug fit, so you can pick this one up from the cap. And the distribution on the atomizer is nice and wide. And let's go ahead and continue with the smell. Now, this fragrance contains some very unique notes. You have tobacco, you have beeswax, you have honey, cedarwood, apple, cinnamon, a lot of really interesting notes in here, and it definitely evokes all different aspects of the story that I just shared with you. You have the cedarwood from the box within the cargo ship. You have apple and pineapple, which are some of the, let's call them tropical fruits, with the exception of the apple, of course, but tropical fruits that were also contained in that box. Of course, you have tobacco, which is one of the biggest inspirations behind the creation of this fragrance. And also a little bit of the cinnamon in here adds that nice spice to it. There are some other notes in here like the patchouli and basil, which I really don't get too much of, although there is a green quality in the base, perhaps attributed to the note of vetiver. All in all, I think this is a really, really unique blend. But the one thing that I love the most about this is that it actually reminds me of communion wine. I know that sounds very strange, but in the opening, especially as soon as you spray it on, it has this boozy quality about it that I think is just so alluring, and it's so appealing, and it really just draws me in. I actually wore this last year at a Christmas party that I attended for my job, and I didn't get any comments or anything. Nobody complimented me, but I couldn't stop smelling myself. There's just something about this fragrance that definitely lures you in, and I just had my arm up to my nose the entire night. Well, not really. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it was definitely so, wanting of my attention that I was smelling it so often, and I kept revisiting it, and it was one of the first times that I had worn it. And so I have given it a thorough testing these past few weeks, and the more and more that I smell it, the more and more that I love it. And I am so happy that I have this bottle in my collection because I have sampled all of the other fragrances from the line. I do have an official sample pack, or a discovery set rather, and Amber Absolutely is an amazing one. My friend Carlos reviewed it on his channel. I'm going to link to his review down below. And that's probably the strongest fragrance from the line. This probably comes in second place of all the ones that I've tried. Some of them are a bit more on the ethereal side. All of them are artisanal, incredibly unique, creative, and inventive, and they all have this modern flair about it. They're gorgeous scents. If you have the chance to try it, definitely make this one of your top priorities along with Amber Absolutely. Both of them are fantastic. The only thing I will say is that it has a bit of an animalic presence. Now listen, I looked at the note breakdown. There's no civet, there's no castoreum, there's no ambergris, there's no musk. There's nothing in there that is inherently or explicitly animalic. Perhaps some of it is coming from the beeswax. I don't know. I do have the raw material at home and it smells quite different from the overall blend that I'm getting from this fragrance. But what I will say is that there is a bit of an animalic component. It doesn't smell stinky or fecal or, something that would drive you away. It just makes it that much more complex and enigmatic. I think it's a beautiful scent, and if you have a chance to try it, please, I highly recommend you do so. Let's go ahead and finish the review by taking a closer look at my overall assessment. First up, I took a look at the uniqueness and the overall smell, and this fragrance is by far one of the most unique fragrances that I have in my collection. There is absolutely nothing that I can compare it to. You have the apple and the pineapple with a little bit of cinnamon drizzled on top. You also have these moistened tobacco leaves with honey and beeswax, adding a bit of an animalistic touch. And then you have all of these other ingredients like the patchouli and the vetiver and the basil, which I don't get too much of, but they contribute to the enigmatic complexity of the fragrance. I think it's very well done. So happy to have it in my collection. Overall smell though, it is a bit on the challenging side. So it's not a fragrance that I would very openly recommend to people, but it's definitely one for the connoisseur, especially if you want something that doesn't smell like everything else on the market, something that's going to make you stand out, something that's going to intrigue not just the wearer, but the passerby who's going to smell you. I think it's a great fragrance. Longevity on this one was solid. I got about 7 hours. The projection is not as loud as I expected it to be. I got about maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, but it was within an arm's length, which is kind of good because this is one of the more personal scents. You don't want a fragrance to really announce your presence. You want fragrances that people are going to recognize it as soon as they step into your personal space. It is an accessory, but you don't want it to overtake you. And I think this one is that perfect balance. In terms of the versatility though, this is a little bit tough because it is a good performer and it has some dark ingredients in here. So I would recommend it for colder weather wear. I think anybody of any age and anybody of any sex can wear this, but there is a mature quality about it that I would say puts this in the 25 and up range. But again, scent is very personal and subjective. So wear what you want, wear what makes you happy, and wear what you love. Last up, we have the presentation. I think it's a gorgeous presentation. And final verdict on this one is it's one of my favorite fragrances. I think they did a knockout job with this one. I love how they incorporated all the different ingredients, the tobacco, the pineapple, the apple, the cinnamon, the woods, the cedarwood, the vetiver. I think it's so unique of a blend. And it's one of those fragrance notes that as far as the note breakdown is concerned, it's very transparent. You can pick up on all those ingredients. And it doesn't smell like your conventional tobacco. It doesn't smell like Versace's The Dreamer. It doesn't smell like Tobacco Vanille. It doesn't smell like Bois d'Ambry. It's a very different tobacco note. It's the Maduro tobacco. You have to check it out. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. I really do appreciate that. That was my review of Maduro by the company Fort & Manle. Thanks again for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Please remember to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. This way you never miss any of my future content. Thanks again for tuning in. Love you guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care.